Was thinking I was live on all the things. There's always just too many buttons, gang. So now you're seeing me jumping in. All right, let's run it back. For my friends that are watching on the horizontal, my friends that are watching on the vertical just got exclusive content. But let's sort of run it back. Guitar friend Tim here, jamming with you. Happy and excited on this fine Saturday to be playing. We got the patient ones that are in the horizontal version. I don't know why I'm doing it. I think YouTube is promoting the vertical live stream so it gets out to a different audience. So if you're following me, thank you so much. If you're a subscriber, thank you so much. You might be getting notifications or heads ups, and you might be clicking on one and being, which one is this, which one is that? I usually put a little guitar emoji in front of the title for the vertical one, just so I don't get confused, but here we are all getting confused, at least I am. We've got this background track, right? We built this during one of our workouts this week, and it's a nice, slightly spooky progression. Hey, it's me, it's Michael B. I was wondering why we weren't getting anything out of you guys. You know, there's juggling too many chainsaws, you're bound to get cut. So here we are. It bears repeating. Let's talk about the 5 chord. 5 chord shows up in the blues, shows up in pop, shows up in all music, frankly, shows up in spooky flamenco sounding minor progressions like this. We're gonna play some different versions of it and get comfortable with finding the notes that exist in a 5 chord so that we can hit it with confidence, because it moves differently than some of the other chords in a typical progression. So let's jam along with this progression right here. We're running it back again. And now we've got an E7. All right, let's officially try this warm up. A minor, D minor. Now get ready, it goes up to the E7 right here, and then back to the A minor, then back up to the E7. Okay, so the 1 chord is that A minor. The 4 chord is the D minor. Back to the 1 chord, A minor. Now up to the 5 chord, it's an E7. A minor, you can play it down here, open. D minor, now we're going straight to that E7. And then back up to the A minor. So your warm up for right now is just see if you can remember the song form, meaning this little progression has some nice quirks to it. And that's how you're gonna start to train your brain to get ready for, here comes a 5 chord. We're playing an E dominant 7 there. This second half of the progression is slightly different. Goes straight to the E7 and then back to the 1. And then back up to the 5. Now it repeats. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2. So 2 bars of A minor, 2 bars of D minor, 2 bars of A minor, and now 2 bars of that E7. So 1 chord. So 4 chord, now get ready. Now we're going up to the E7. And then back. Hey Bob, I saw your question, and a lot of people assume that the 5 chord in a minor progression is going to be a minor chord. And it could be. There's definitely songs that do that, like Black Magic Woman. Most of the time, the sound that we hear that has the most tension and therefore the most magnetism, and it's just one that shows up in a lot of songs as well, is right there when you're hearing that E7, the dominant 7. So let's play a little bit now, a little bit more in this warm-up with singling out certain notes. Just get to know them and get to name them. This is good, healthy nutrition for naming notes on the fretboard. So let's go right up here on this 4th string. Uh-oh, need a new layer there. Hang tight. Oh, did they just do like an update in this app that I use all the time, and now I can't find the thing I always use? What's going on there? Oh boy. Yeah, I just want a vector brush. Oh boy. You guys keep jamming. I'm gonna try to figure out what my iPad is doing to me here. There we go. Oh wow. One of those app updates that makes everything better and worse at the same time. Okay. All right. What we got right there is just a regular A. It's as simple as that to get started here, right? Okay, so we've got an A. And the A works over the D minor. And now you're going to move down to that blue dot. And that's a G sharp. Again, simple as can be. And boom, chop, chop, chop. Okay, let's get into this now and break it down much further. My members and I have been rocking out doing this all week. And essentially what our goal today is that we're not going to try to swallow the ocean and learn every which way to play over a 5 chord. We're going to start with like, okay, where are the chord tones? And if we can get comfortable at finding where the chord tones are in a 5 chord as it comes around, that's going to serve us so well because, spoiler alert, a little bit of what we're going to get into later in the workout is understanding how the 5 chord really is the great unlock for dominant chords. And if you can find the notes that are in a 5 chord, you're going to be finding the notes that are in any dominant 7. And we say dominant 7 to make it absolutely clear that we're not talking about a major 7. So a major 7 is like there's an A major 7. That's that pretty sounding one. The dominant 7 is the bluesier sounding one. So even though we're talking about 5 chords here today in the context of, let's say in A, we've got this 5 chord, which is the E7. You're going to see 7 chords all over the place. And what I'm saying is when you see a chord chart and it says G7, by the end of this workout, you're going to have an understanding of like, oh, I could really hit some these chord tones that are going to sound like you're moving with the chord changes. So tell me right now in a quick poll, how do you feel? So answer 1 through 4. How do you feel about playing with the changes, like that term, which is that when the chords change, whatever you're playing sounds like it moves with them. 1 being like you feel awesome, you feel great, come at me, I'm Charlie Parker. 2 being like, pretty good, I feel pretty great. Like when the blues come around, like I'm ready to move with it. When it goes to the 4, it sounds like I went to the 4. When it goes to the 5, it sounds like I went to the 5. Because that's our real goal. And I got some good, honest answers coming in here in the kind of category. I would say like most days I'm sort of in the 2 or 3 area too. I think we can always improve our ability to connect with the chord changes as they come around. And one of the best places to start is better understanding how the 5 chord affects the sound. Okay? So if we take something like, let's go to G major. I appreciate the answers. And we've got this little vamp here. How does this go? I think this just goes... Yeah, this just goes from a G up to a D, and then back down to a G. All right, for 1,000,000 points in the comments here, and I'm trying to watch the comments from the vertical version and the horizontal. Maybe one day YouTube will figure it out that we do want to be in both places at once. They did a recent update, and it like kind of helps, but they would just basically try to crop it, and it would look weird. So I'm doing the 2 things at once, so I can see your answers. Help me understand, what are the notes in a G major scale? List them off by the letters, not by the numbers. So in this case, I need the exact letters and list off what are the notes that we have in a G major scale. And as you do that, I'll start filling in sort of like the fretboard diagram version of it. And what I'll do is I'll start by filling in maybe one that we're a little more familiar with, which is like the G major pentatonic. And don't get frustrated if you're like, I build complexity as we go, but I want people of all levels to feel like they can jump in here. So if you're more familiar with the pentatonic, that's great. We can treat that as the skeleton, in keeping with the Halloween theme. The skeleton upon which we'll add more meat. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. apparently. Okay, what do we got up here? We got Max saying G, A, B, D, F sharp. That's great. I missed an E in there. You were cruising along great, and then I sort of felt like I had a brain fart. Column saying G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. That's great. Nicholas saying the same answer. That's good. That's very good. Checking people's answers. That's great. So let's spell that out here in terms of add a couple more layers there. Let's get our roll call here. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and I always like to have the bookended, like have them there, right there. So if we look at like the major pentatonic, so we might be playing quite often like, and I'm not assuming that you use the full major scale, or I hope you do. My goal is to try to teach you that, and that's part of what today is about. Is if I can get you noticing the value that we're going to get from adding the rest of the major scale, it's really going to lock in nicely with the 5 chord. So if I'm playing just these blue notes here that make up the major pentatonic, I'm only going to have G, A, B, and then I skip the 4 and I go D and E. So I'm not going to have the F sharp or the C, and we get the G again. So that's our pentatonic, right? G, A, B, and then we skip the C, and we got D, and we got E, and then it repeats. And that's pretty nice, and that's pretty groovy, but you're going to notice, try using just those notes. Limit yourself, even if you kind of know where this is going, to just using those notes over this progression that goes back and forth between G and D. Try to make some tasty stuff happen. Just stay in one area. We'll go around one more time. I'll just play rhythm for you. Hope you got your guitar. As always, I'm curious, what kind of guitar are you playing today? Let me know. I'm drinking kombucha. Had too much coffee. Maybe that's why I was running around like a goblin with my head chopped off. Okay, we're gonna wrap up here. Let's talk about something. I have a question for you. What is, of these blue notes that we have circled, one of those is a chord tone of D. Which one is it? And it's a bit of an easy one, as long as you don't overthink it. Which one of these blue notes that we have is a chord tone of our D chord, of our 5 chord, right? So in this case, like the all important 5 chord, at least as we're sort of putting this battle plan together, is a D. We're in this little chord progression where we're just going back and forth between a G chord and a D chord. Ooh, the Martin D28 column. Oh, precious guitar. Okay, so it kind of makes sense. We got a bunch of people saying D. Okay, great. We've got D and A, actually. Yeah, we've got D and A. That's fabulous. Now here's a broader question. What are the 3 notes that make up a D major triad? So we've got D and we've got A. We've got 2 of the 3 from the triad. Uh-oh, those were all in the same layer, apparently. I'll just redraw them. Right there. There, I'll draw this. We got G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G. So if we're just looking at the tones that make up a D, we're going to have, and this is like just a reminder, when you're trying to understand how chords are built, just lay out the notes of a major scale and skip every other note. It's D, F sharp, and we skip the G, right? So we can ignore that G. We basically leapfrogged over each one. We went D over E, gets us to the F sharp. F sharp, we skip over the G, so we skipped over, boom. So we've got D, F, and A. Great. So we've got a couple of those in our G major pentatonic, right? We've got D and we've got A. So here's the D, and then we've got another one right there, and here's the A. So remember, our goal is that we're trying to hunt down the chord tones for the 5 chords so we can sound like we're moving with that chord when it happens. We don't have the F sharp. Okay, so let's fill in the F sharp now, and let's grab that. All right. Wrong one right there. Let's be right there. So we've just added one of the very important notes that the major pentatonic doesn't have. Let's just try messing around with that. So notice those pink dots that we have there. It should kind of make sense that you can kind of see if we were to hold that C shape of the D major chord right there, it lights up those notes of that chord right there. So I want us to jam again now over this just simple chord progression back and forth between the 1 and the 5. And when the 5 chord happens, I want you to really try to emphasize those notes. And in particular, see if you can bring in this F sharp, because it's a very colorful sound. It brings out the major third of the 5 chord, which without that, it's really tough for our ear to hear that the player is moving with the changes. Here we go. So it's just G to D. Get ready with your notes, those pink notes especially, and lay into them on the 5 chord. Now here comes the D. Towards those notes. So one more time around, and then we'll talk a little bit about this. I'll check in on you, see how it's going. Okay, so how did that go? Answering the poll, was that making sense? Were you able, the real question is, were you able to change when the chords changed and really have it sound like you were getting there in time, in your own time, without rushing, without feeling distracted? And this is where I was asking earlier this week, is there another name for the game musical chairs, like in across the pond? So the game that we have in the US, and I don't know why I'm assuming that it might be different. I guess because there's a game called Duck Duck Goose, and I was talking to somebody a while back, and they're saying like, oh yeah, when I grew up, we'd call that like goose goose gray goose or something. It was basically like a variation of the same exact game, but with a different name. So with musical chairs, however many chairs you have one extra person, meaning if there's 5 chairs, there's 6 people walking around. So each time when the music stops, you're just walking around, pacing around slowly. And the moment the music stops, you have to be ready to sit down in a chair. If you hesitate or you forget or you don't hear the music stop, then you might be the person who doesn't have a spot. You might be too late and then all the spots are taken. So it's sort of a silly analogy, but I want you to think of it where when these chord changes are happening, you've got to get ready to sit down in the chair, ready with some idea that you're going to move with the changes and land, even if it's a very simple phrase, a very simple note, like something that might just tell your ear and our ear that you were ready to move with that chord change as it happened. And so the goal for right now, for today, is very simply like the chair you're trying to get to is like get to a chord tone. Because there will be other ways that we can, get really fancy with how to play with chord changes and stuff like that. But for starters, if you're not able to find the chord tones, then I don't think you should be worried about trying to do anything else that builds off of that, because everything does build off of that concept of like, if you can find the chord tones, then you can build more complex ideas. So it seems like we're all feeling pretty confident. Great. Let's add a little bit more to this equation. So I keep rebuilding this chart because I keep erasing it, I guess. But G A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and then back to G. Okay, there's one note that we could add to this D chord that would make it from being just a regular D to now being a D7. And this is where stuff can get really interesting, right? Yeah, keeping it simple is good. I see you over there, Russ. A few notes is great. And if anybody has the ability to play this on a larger device than an iPad or an iPhone, that's going to do you a great service. Maybe even popping in headphones would help you out. But yeah, as far as hearing the chord changes. So a D chord is going to have, in its elemental form, the triad, it's going to have a D, an F sharp. Like, so remember how we started? We started off with the D and the A that are built into that G major pentatonic. We got those sort of like for free. We've added the F sharp, which is the major third. So that's the root, that's the third, and that's the 5 of the D chord. Root, third, 5. And now what we're going to add, as Callum was saying, and Maurizio was saying, is C. And the C adds the flat 7. And these numbers now are not talking about the scale degrees. These are the chord tones. So these are the chord tones as they relate to D as the root. So if D becomes 1, boom, we throw down a flag as D being 1. Now we've got F sharp, now we've got A, and now it's our time to fill in, we'll use this honey mustard, delicious in all sorts of ways right there. We've got the C that we're going to add there. And there's a C that we can add right there. And we could even put one like back there, or put one right. So we've got this, and now we've got this really cool added color. Now, before we do anything else, any other thinking or processing, I want you to just play with how that flat 7, with how that C sounds as we move to the D7 chord here. So check it out. We're going to put the same backing track on. 1, 2, play some notes that go with G. Or just play a G chord. Now get ready. Emphasize that C. Just hang out on it. Listen to how much more intentional that sounds. Even if I just go between those two notes, I'm just playing. There's a B, that's the major third of the G chord. And now I go up to that C. That's the flat 7 of the D chord. Yeah, Doug, arpeggios are great for this approach, yeah. So an arpeggio would be if I just do more of those chord tones in a row. So like, right, those kind of moves. Keep going. Groovy times, and it's good stuff. And I want you to know, I recently started working with some good people at a company that I like, and called Gator. Does anyone have a case or a guitar case that is starting to look a little bit beat up? You know, has some stickers on it, has some miles on it. I'm going to play a little video now, and this is from Gator's TSA series, which TSA, oh, they're going through it right now. So you don't want to get on their grumpy side. If you want real good protection for your guitars and any other things you got, music equipment related, pedals, they make cases that are great for everything. And this is them, they're a sponsor of the channel. It's cool to have a sponsor. Gator. This video is sponsored by Gator Cases. Guitarists, like any other musician, value the advantages of proper protection for their gear and arriving in their destination city with one guitar and not two pieces of one guitar. Guitars, amps, effects, and accessories all need safe transport and storage. Luckily, Gator's got you covered. That's the truth. Okay, how did that go when we were adding the flat 7? How is that going? We're going to move on to some different styles now, and we're just going to rinse and repeat, making sure that we can find the 5 chord, we can find its root, its major third, its fifth, and its flat 7. So those are going to be the 4 notes that, from my experience, you can count on being able to turn that 5 chord into a dominant 7, meaning you can use all 4 notes all the time, every time. And it's not often that I have rules. And if that turns out to be wrong, please report back to me, report to HR and tell me what I did wrong. But I think that's going to work. And you can run with that. And I know we get excited when there's a rule that we can just set it and forget it and let it rip. But that means we get very clear about what the work is. So the work is we got to very efficiently be able to find any particular chord we're looking for. So let's say it's E7 up here, and be able to spell out. And this is kind of what to what Doug was saying, is that the arpeggio approach is basically just taking a chord and breaking it up into its individual notes and playing those one at a time. So that's where you might be headed with that, and you don't need to jump to that today. For right now, today, you can just kind of pick 1 or 2 of your favorite chord tones from the 5 chord and lean into it and make sure that you can find it consistently. Because now we'll do something that is more over a blues feel, because the blues really does have an opportunity for the 5 chord as it comes around for you to get ready. This is really important stuff. Yeah. And in fact, this is, before we jump into the blues thing, because I think oftentimes we think of the 5 chord as living in the blues, which it does, which is great. I hear many times when I'm doing something in kind of like a pop context, where if we don't make that move, that little nudge that we just did, like right here, to that, bringing in that, the F sharp in that last chord, which was the D, we'd be missing something. And all it takes is that little shift to suddenly move with the changes. So check out this progression. So this is also in the key of G. And this little progression goes like this. It goes, what is it? C up to E minor. Now it hangs out on that 5 chord, on that D. So it just keeps looping that. So if I was doing something like, the only thing that I'm doing there to make that sort of repeating part, and it's very much sort of like a pop style part, the thing I'm doing to make sure that it sounds like it's moving with the changes is that I'm just bringing in the. So try that with me, just sort of like as a cool little 2-string. Or something like that. You could just play it as like, I'm putting on the delay, kind of going to that edge type of place. Just to demonstrate that like a really simple part like this will sound really nice going through most of the changes. And then if you're ready to have to bring in that F sharp on the 5 chord, it'll sound great. Here we go. So being aware of that. All right, getting into our dreamy pop stuff there. Is that making sense? How are we doing on that so far? Let's move to a different feel, a different key. I will let you know, oh my gosh, if you don't know yet, you might be seeing in the automated things out there that this is a really good time of year. So if you've been watching my stuff for a while and you're considering joining, but you're like, when's he gonna run a sale? Guys, I'm running a sale. It's gonna be great. And I think now's your time to pounce on it. From now until Halloween, you can join our membership. Get 3 months. That means for $29, you get 3 months unlimited, try everything. Settle into a groove. It's the lowest price. It's my lowest price. That's all there is to it. Guitarworkoutoftheday.com is how you do it. Check that out. It's going to be great. Who here has been watching my stuff for a while and has been considering and wondering about the membership? Because so many of the people that show up on these Saturday streams are members of my community, and they're amazing, and they're really high quality players and great people, even better as human beings, and we just have a really great time. Yeah. I always offer 2 weeks free. So you've always got 2 weeks that you could try things just to check it out. You can cancel anytime. But this deal is 3 months for $29, and that kicks in right away. And then you'd be in the groove, because everything that we do in these Saturday workouts is the culmination of what we've been working on all week. And we get the bite-sized version throughout the week. So it's not nearly as long as this hang. It's much more just like an easy sort of workout. Imagine showing up at the gym and you've got your sort of CrossFit coach who's like, all right, drop and give me 20 pentatonics or whatever, do your thing, and then you just stay in that momentum, and then everything else gets easier to add on more information once we get that momentum. So speaking of momentum, let's keep moving. Let's move into blues. What do we got here? Are we in E? Oh no. Where are we? Boom, boom. Oh, what did I do? I can't remember what this progression is. Oh, this is just a circle. We'll get to this in a bit. That's just a cascading bunch. We'll do that in a bit, but that'll be really good. I think this is more of a straight up blues. Okay, so this one was E to A. So we'll clear the board, wipe the slate clean, so we'll start fresh. That's what we got to be able to do, is move and groove and rebuild wherever we go. Okay. So start jamming on just an E blues and get comfortable with your usual moves here. Got E, goes to A, boom, 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 boom. Okay, so coming back around to the top, we've got E. We go to the A. Back to the E. We'll do another E there. A7. Stay on the A again. Now I got this E. Now we got B. That's our 5 chord. And we got A. Back to E. Okay. Nice. Okay, so we've got a couple of golden opportunities here. In fact, we use the golden color here where we've got our 5 chord, right? Who can tell me, and you could be helping us out, what would be the notes of a B7 chord? Because remember, if this is our 5 chord, we're saying that we can, without fail, turn that into a 5-7 chord, and we'll get the 4 notes to play with, which will really bring out a lot of fun color, especially in the blues. this is where we're going to get into that stuff that really sounds pretty hip, pretty slick. All right, so who's got it? Look into the comments, be brave, see if you can sound it out. And let's look at this shape right here, based off of the 6th string. So we've got boom. And I'll just start by spelling out the chord tones of this 5 chord, which is super, super cool. And then I've got a little exercise that can help us get even better at these so that it doesn't feel like it's too overwhelming. And we'll break that down next in today's episode. Previously on Guitar Friend Tim. Let's check it out. So these are like, here's our root. There's a B. There's another B right there. And I think I got those notes laid out. Remind yourself that you almost definitely already have a 7 chord that you know that fits that right there, right? Right? So that bar chord that you have of like a B, regular B, and then you turn it into a 7 chord. And then if you know this one as well, you put your pinky down there. So you've got those chord tones, which are really great. Let's just try now going one time through this blues in E and treat it like you normally would if you were jamming on a blues track. But try to make yourself the musical chairs game. When the B comes around, try to aim at these tones. And even if you just hold it's totally fine if for right now you just hold the entire chord and just try to spell it out. And then maybe you go back to your, right? The idea is that we can smoothly switch between different gears in our playing. So here we go. Start nice and easy and slow. Here we go. So you're just playing at the open mic on blues night. Right, just doing your thing. Now we're getting ready to do the B. Get some notes ready. Here comes another B right here. Okay, how did that go? Checking in real quick with you. How did that go? In a word. In one single word, answer, and it will fill up the screen. Describe how that went. If that was like a typical blues passage for you, it went okay? Okay. Tell me as sort of a bit of a pulse check, what do you typically play when the 5 chord comes around in a blues? Like, do you have a strategy? Do you have something that you're familiar with doing? Smooth is good. We like that smooth move. And do you ever have that smooth move tee? You know, they have the Sleepy Bear tee and then they have the smooth move. You better be ready. You better not have too many social obligations later that day, because I tell you what, when the move gets smooth, it's time for you to find the bathroom. Yikes was in there. That's okay. Quite under average, says Royal. Bluish. Okay. A bluish hue. Okay. So, and this is where you can fake it. That's great. So prior to today, when you're in a blues like this, what is your strategy? And don't feel like you have to say the right answer, because it's okay if you just say like, my strategy is, I don't know, just hope I don't get called out. Hit the flat 7. Okay, that's good. See, that's a totally valid approach, because like I was saying earlier, you can kind of pick your favorite chord tone of the day and really like be all about it. And if you pick the major third, and again, I'm thinking of the chord. So when this B7 comes around, if you pick the major third, that's a very colorful tone that tells us a lot about that B7, because it gives us that harmonic information. The major third is a very important tone. as is the flat 7, because they're unique to that chord. There's other chords that will have a B in them, like a B minor or a B major 7. But the moment that you bring in that flat 7, or you bring in that major third as opposed to a minor third, you see how you're suddenly like grabbing the most distinctive part of that chord in a way. So if I just play those notes, if I just play the major third and hit the flat 7, you can kind of hear that I'm spelling out that. So if you aim at that, the strategy is using your ears, that's great. As long as, and I know you do have this, as long as you have a recipe for checking, listening back. So use your ears while you're playing, and then use your ears while you're listening to, your practice tapes and things like that, and really get a sense of how you want to refine it. That's all that we could ever do, right? Is just like getting aware of what the opportunities are as they go by. And that's what I treat the 5 chord as, is that it's an opportunity. You don't have to. Like, look, if I'm playing over that B7, and the progression's kind of long, but if the progression's coming around, it's like we're in E, right? We've got that kind of feel going. Now if the B7 comes around and I'm just doing we all know the blues, we know it's gonna pass, it's gonna work. That's why we love that. It's gonna be okay. But if we were doing something like a, moving with those changes really is satisfying. So I want you to sort of have that little upgrade to your playing. So let's play it again. And here's what I want you to do to simplify this. This is a lot of dots here, and I get it. So let's clear that out. Let's take this recipe that we've been doing, and my members really enjoyed this week, because you tell me now, what notes have I drawn here repeatedly? And you can tell me in terms of the numbers, like in terms of the chord tone numbers, or you can tell me in terms of the exact letters. I'm taking just 2 of the chord tones right now from the B, and I'm just putting them down in 3 different octaves right here. In fact, I'll put them in even more places, right? Because we sometimes it's good to learn a scale in a particular area. Yeah, we got the root and the major third. Let's see. So to Bob's question, flat 7 of major third, flat 7 or major third is what I was talking about before. Yeah, so in the full chord, the 4 tones that we have in a B7 would be the root, the major third, the 5, and the flat 7. So right now what I've got laid out is just the roots, the bees knees, and major third. Remember, there's that weird thing with the tuning on the second string. It's going to look not like the others. Let's see, where else? There's another one I'm missing. Yeah, on the 5th string. Have fun with this, and let's do a shortened version of this progression. I'll just sort of record it a la carte here. So the only thing I want you to focus on now is hitting a couple of those tones when it comes by. Play whatever you want on that E7, and then when this comes around, now you gotta play. You guys get the game? and you stay right nearby. How was that working? Was that going all right? Were you able to move around to those different ones? And this is so juicy, and I say juicy because it's got all those good nutrients. You're able to name those notes like, okay, I need to know what the notes of the fretboard are, right? We all want to know that. So we've got B, 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 we've got the third, the major third. So even if you don't have lightning quick, okay, D sharp, you could start to use this as a way to measure and be like, okay, I know that each time I do this shape, it's going to give me the major third, which is going to be a D sharp. So you could just be starting to knock down some of these note names as you go. And you're getting these chord tones so that anytime you see a B7, you could go to this major third and then the root. Let's add to this and make it a little more interesting because we're missing some of the elephants in the room. And so with the blue dots, I'm going to be adding, well, who can tell me what note I'm adding to this equation with the blue dots? And it's the same game. We're just adding it to each one of these clusters. So I want you to visualize. I don't want to leave these lines up here because I don't want to confuse you. But what we're doing is just we're grabbing these 3-note clusters. Remember, this one looks a little different because of the tuning, but that's all we're doing right there, right? So what have we grabbed there? We've added the flat 7. So in this case, that would be the A. All right, let's jump right back in, play this exact same game. And now this is the new sort of like constraint, is that we're just going to use the root, the flat 7, or the third, right? And play a little lick with it. And I challenge you, especially to my members who've been rocking this all week, I challenge you to not always start by hitting the root. See it, but you don't always have to hit it because that's going to affect your phrasing. If every single time you think I need to play over a B7, you start by hitting a B, it's a little bit like saying the thoughts in your head without revising them before you try to compose an actual sentence. If you're always just starting with your placeholder, it's going to sound the same every time. So check this out. Here's the difference. If I play E7, now if I always go, right, that's okay. But it means that every single phrase is going to get pretty similar. Versus if I go and just simply say, can I start on like the third? Or start on the flat 7. You could even try not hitting the root, just playing the third and the flat 7. That's stinky. Good times, good times. Who's ready for a little more sauce, or who's feeling like they're already running for the hills and this is too much for a Saturday? If you're watching this in the future and it's not Saturday, I hope it feels like Saturday. I hope you got the kombucha flowing in its own way, or whatever your favorite probiotic positive beverage of choice is. Yeah. Yeah, the minor and the major third have a lot going for each other, a lot in common. And just to be clear, what I'm thinking about when I'm using the numbers today especially is that when I am saying like the third and the 7th, it's all in relation to the chord that's happening while it's happening. So there's sometimes where we think of scale degrees where that's like the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, and that's like the 3rd and the 5th and the 7th of the home scale. But I'm moving these numbers now so that when I play a B7, I'm just thinking about B as being my 1. And that gets us into the conversation where it's like, Oh, flat. The dominant 7 chords can really set up a key change, even if it's momentarily. Like a 5 chord, because it has that magnetism we've been talking about, is like it can sort of come out of the blue and send us to a different chord. And just to prove that, and this will be a great way for us to practice exactly what we have up here on the board. We're going to do this cycle of chords that I hit by accident earlier, and I'll walk you through it. But basically, it's going to test your ability to switch to a different chord, like if it goes from B7 and then it goes to D7 or A7. You've got to move, like I think of like the football, like the guys on the sideline that sort of like move the chains. You've got to be able to move the chains and get ready to set up on your new route and be able to still find the major third and the flat 7 for that chord, right? We can't get too stuck in one spot. Yeah, a man without sauce is lost. We need to hear this in the Stephen Hawking voice. Thank you, Wes. I appreciate it.
A man without sauce is lost, but the same man could get lost in the sauce.
Yes. Was that Pauly Shore or Plato? Who is to say? You know what I mean? It could be one and the same these days. Great wisdom is found wherever you decide it is. So let's play this little progression. That's short for progression. Let's see what we got here. First of all, help me sound out the chord changes here if you would. So listen for the bass line. Let's see what we got. So that's one chord. Now we're going to a different chord there. Okay. Now what? Who's got these chord changes? Who's got these chord changes? It's moving through like a cycle. The dreaded wheel of the circle of fourths, circle of fifths. Who can spell out these root notes? They're all 7 chords. And we're going to use this as our sort of like rotating challenge. Anybody, everybody, not everybody all at once. This is good. These are all 5 chords because they're all dominant 7 chords, right? So sometimes you will find a 5 chord that's just out in the wild doing its thing, not being a 5 chord, not functioning as a 5 chord. But what I'm trying to get us into is that, like, if we're going to put in the work to find the 1, the major third, the flat 7, the 5 of any given chord, that's going to have value in other places. There's going to be a lot of blues songs where the first chord is a B7, and we don't need to think of that B7 as a 5. In fact, we shouldn't. We should just think of it as B7, and we're going to have all of this like material that we've scooped up from this hard work, so we can be like we can play those tones of a B7, and that's my gift to you, is that you're going to learn that these 5 chords will teach you how to be pretty flexible. So we started off with this progression with a B. Hangs out there on a B7 for a while. Then it goes to an E7. Okay? Then it goes to an A7. Now we got D. G7. C7. So now you're getting the idea of the pattern. It's just going, it's moving by fourths. The bass line, right? Oh, and then it loops around. That's all we get. Okay, so we go and then it abruptly goes back to B. Okay, great. So we've got this pattern. This is the thing that we're going to be moving around, just like we did before. Just like what we had before. So when B is the chord in question, you're going to be like, okay, I can rock anywhere that I can find a root, a flat 7, and a third. And if we're ready for it, we can add the 5th. I don't know why I put that there on the wrong fret. It's because I had too much kombucha and not enough coffee. and too much coffee and way too much kombucha. Okay. So that's kind of a weird stretch right there. But I put it there just to make sure that like we've got all four of those tones right there. And that would continue on up here, just to color code it. We've got our root, we've got our major third, got our flat seven. And so that might be a more useful area right there. With the, you see how there's, again, it's that little cluster right there. Now this is where it's going to get nice and spicy. You guys see where this is going. Now, as those chords change, you're going to have to take your toys and move them to the next place, and your anchor is going to be the root. And as I was saying before, you don't always have to, and in fact, I very much suggested that you don't play the root, right? You've got to be able to move it mentally and see it and visualize it without playing it. And I'll show you what I mean. So this little chunk right here of roots and thirds and fives and flat sevens that apply to the B7, they're great. I got to be able to remember those kind of shapes and scoot them and move them around. That's the power of guitar, is that we can move keys at a moment's notice. Okay. So if I'm doing this, now I'm getting ready for E. What can I do? Well, I can move that same shape. I might have to get creative and move up here on the 12th fret. Now I got to think about, what would A? Well, A's good. A's going to look a little bit like the B. D, okay. Is that making sense? Is that, I'm not saying that's a piece of cake that you're just immediately going to be able to do it. But that is kind of a really satisfying, simple game that you could do with a pretty like minimal backing track. Like you're going to be practicing your ability to change, moving to different chords, which we all need to be able to do that. Locating and recognizing the note names. Like I know that that's a D when I go there. Do I know that that's a D? Can I notice that this is okay? If I'm there, could I go there in my mind and hit the flat seven? Like hit some of those important tones. Like this stuff is really cool because it sounds very melodic. It's moving with the changes, and you might start to see patterns that were there all along. Where it's like, when I do this, I realize what I'm seeing right here is like if I was on D, if I played root, flat seven, five, third, that makes sense. You're going to see these things that are in shapes you already know. You just maybe haven't yet extracted the gold from being able to like. Like all I'm doing is just sort of vibing and putting some stank on exactly what we have right now from this lesson, right? Yeah. And so Callum, as Callum's saying, is like this is the strategy for learning chord tones and bite sizes, because that was the whole idea. In fact, it's a light bulb moment. It's a light bear moment. That's right. Gummies in the yummy. Let's go. Forgot about that dude back there. That is awesome. We're getting excited here. And I'm so excited. I want to remind you that I am running like one of the very few sales that I do. You think I'm sales all the time, guy? Just ask anybody who's been hungry and waiting for this sale. Go to guitarworkoutoftheday.com if you're not a member. I'm telling you, you have two choices. You could snag this super awesome deal, and that gets you 3 months. You pay $29 today. You have 3 months to try everything and really stretch out, especially if you feel like 2 weeks isn't long enough to see if it's a good fit. If you go with the 2-week free trial, you could cancel anytime. You could stay for 13 and 9.99 days. And some people do that, and I still talk to them. It's okay. But my whole goal is for you to just love it and fall into a rhythm of playing more guitar and having more fun. That's exactly what I enjoy seeing, is that people are just picking up their guitars more and melting away the excuses that were holding them up. So it's making sense. It seems like we're just trying to find a way into like these bite-sized versions of like big topics, right? Because we want to learn the notes of the fretboard, but how do you learn it all, and how do you make that interesting? What I'm saying is like you're going to see a lot of seventh chords in blues and all sorts of music. And if you're able to locate the root quickly, find your way to some, like that little shape that we kept moving around, is going to be super handy, because then you can feel like in any part of the neck, in any neighborhood, you're going to have like one of your old reliables there. That type of stuff. It's fun. Let's do, let's see. Let's go to what kind of where we started, which was this vibe right here, which is the more kind of flamenco kind of thing, right? I like this one. We were building this a couple nights ago. It was on Thursday night. We were doing our that was part 4 of this series for the week. Uh-oh. Ooh, the drama. I have no idea why that just dropped out. Sometimes Logic, or Ableton, I guess, defies logic. Okay, so I think it's looping. But yeah, that's another thing that's great about the way we do the workouts, is that we stay on a theme throughout the week. So you're not just getting hit by a million topics throughout the week. Which just goes to show you that if most of the people here are members, such as Galen Maynard in the house and Michael B, the two moderators just showed up. You gotta keep them moderated. Oh, nice. So what Galen's mentioning is that he just posted his Dare to Share. We have a monthly Dare to Share challenge, which is a lot of fun. It's what it sounds like. We're just daring you to jump in the water and post a video of your playing. It's so much fun to see what people do. And in fact, in 1 week's time, we're going to have a talent show in the community, the Dare to Scare. And it's going to be great. It's going to be a Zoom talent show. Speaking of Zoom, right after this, I'm going to go hop over into the Zoom room. We have a permanent Zoom room that's always open for members to hang out, whether or not I'm there. You guys can talk gear, you can rock out, you can jam and get to know each other. And so I'm going to head over there in a little bit. In fact, we're well past an hour. I'm going to hit the road. So to my members, come hang out. If you're not a member, you could sign up literally right now and come join me in the Zoom room, ask me any follow-up questions. But yeah, just to show you a little bit in the community, what Galen was mentioning was right here in the Dare to Share. And there he is. Our main man right there posted a video. It's that easy, gang. And this is the Dare to Scare announcement. Nice spooky announcement. It's going to be amazing. We have a practice tracker where you can track your minutes. If you're into like logging in the minutes, you can Kenny Loggins in the minutes. And it's just a fun thing, totally optional, but it's really great to just have that be like for people that want to like get in the zone. Not to mention all of the amazing workouts that we do. Like I was saying, if I look at filter by the past, this past week, we were all about that 5 chord. So we did 4 days in a row of the 5 chord. Then we had our member Zoom hang. And now here we are on that Saturday live stream. So you guys are awesome. Rock out. If you've been jamming along with us, you know that this is an E7 chord that we have right there. So use your new skills. A minor, D minor, and now get ready. You guessed it. Nice work, gang. Don't forget to check out the Crazy Good sale. Don't forget to be good to yourselves. Get some sunshine if you got it available to you these days. Say hello to a friend, maybe send them a song. Send somebody in your life just a random chunk of riffs that you're working on. Spook them with your guitar playing. Don't be afraid. Yeah. All right. later, my Gators.